So what's up, guys? I figured today I want to give you guys a little bit of a preview of what it is that I'm trying to achieve on this channel and the purpose behind it, and what better way to do it than with a little story time. So today's video is going to kind of consist of two important stories that will kind of relate to this larger idea of why I feel the need to kind of, take to a platform to defend the work that I do in the humanities. But before I get to that, um, let's get to today's story time. So keep in mind that the first story is going to be more on the everybody can watch. But the following story after that is going to definitely be for a mature audience. So be forewarned. So the first story today is about an incident where my husband and I had to attend a family event where we were going to be introduced to family members that we didn't know. And so we were with other members in our family and, meeting up, and you guys know the drill. You guys know how family gatherings are, especially if you're being introduced to new family members. And so we kind of congregated at one of our family members' houses. And we also had some family members that were, coming in from out of town. So we were all making our introductions, and we were like kind of congregating in a group of like, I don't know, like 6 or 7. And the older family member in question that we know, my husband and I, was introducing the family member that had come from out of town. And that family member's, profession was described. This person is a card dealer, they work at a casino, and this is what they do, this is what they know how to play. Very much, singing the praises of being a card dealer for a casino. And I'm not, downplaying that, career or anything like that. That's not the issue. And so, we were all listening pretty intently as we were making introductions. And then, my husband's job was, introduced to these family members and what he does for a living and kind of a little bit of his background, etc. and so forth. And then the two family members that we did not know, after they learned this information about the family member from out of town and my husband, looked to me. And the senior family member that we were with, who was, describing all of, my husband's profession, and the other family member who had come from out of town's profession, they were waiting for that family member to describe my profession. And a good 10 seconds elapsed, probably about 10-15. And, there was a definite pause. And anybody who knows or works in communication knows that, 10 seconds is a lot of time. And so I remember sitting there thinking oh, okay, he's probably just gathering, their thoughts or whatever. And it was waiting and waiting and nothing. And then I had to volunteer that information. I had to introduce who I was, and then it got to what I do for a living. I'm an instructor. I teach composition. I teach writing. I've done this for years now, and I love what I do. And it was almost like explaining what I do for a living was something to be ashamed of in this group.
I'll be in my bedroom, making no noise and pretending that I don't exist.
And given the information that this side of my family gets their information from, it really does not shock me, to say the very least. But I definitely felt the awkwardness in that moment. It was feeling as though what I do for a living is something to be ashamed of and something that really isn't talked about. And it was it really stood out, and it wasn't just lost on me. I remember like returning home and my husband and I having that discussion of like, whoa, what just happened there, um, that being an instructor at a college is something to be a point of shame. um, it, it was flabbergasting, to say the very least. That's the PG story. Now for my next story. So I used to have a really close group of friends. And this group of friends had seen me go through um, various stages of my academic career. So, from graduate school to graduating to trying to pursue a job as an instructor, and the kind of, the journey that my career took. And I started noticing that amongst one of my old friends that the that how instructors were being perceived definitely shifted over, time, or, shifted with time. So what became as a kind of like, we didn't really talk about it. I mean, like talking about like anybody talks about a job, like how was your week, what was going on, blah 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 blah, which is fine. But then I noticed, as a couple years later, as I was like definitely immersed in my career, that this friend started really going into the dangers of my profession and really started questioning instructors' intent in the academic community. And I started hearing um, ideas from this friend, such as, like, what you're doing in the classroom is dangerous. You shouldn't be teaching these texts. These ideas are influencing the youths. You guys are indoctrinating them. You guys don't know how dangerous and reckless you guys actually are. And I was just wondering, where was this coming from? I mean, I had experienced this from like a collective, community online where, you know, um, being an instructor is definitely, we're at a moment in time where I definitely feel like, academia is under attack, that these institutions are under attack, and that the instructors who are really trying to, you know, do good work by their students are having their motivations and curriculum challenged by people who really don't have very much experience in the academic realm. And so I started noticing that these same kind of talking points being regurgitated by this friend, to the point where one night it completely boiled over. And it's not as though that there was drinking or anything involved, because I don't drink, this friend doesn't drink, but there was a definite, a urgency and a hysteria and just an anger to the accusations that were being hurled at me this one night by this friend. And I was floored. I was being yelled at. I was, you know, being accused of things that I know that does not occur in a classroom, that it was coming from a place of mass hysteria and this misguided and misunderstood and misrepresented image of what these academic institutions are trying to achieve. And so um, I remember that night, it wasn't just me that was getting defensive over this friend, you know, getting mad and yelling at me. My husband intervened. I had another really good friend of ours intervene, and just could not believe the level of hostility and anger that was being hurled toward me for something that, because I was a representative of a community that he was being, that he perceived as dangerous. And I couldn't believe that this was coming from somebody who had known me, throughout my academic career as a student, and then also when I became a professional within that academic community. It was completely horrendous. And I remember I had like, when like you get screamed at and you're like caught off guard and you get those like raised tears because you don't know what to do with yourself. That was me. And I remember I came home later on that night, and I remember my husband and I were having a conversation because he was caught off guard and couldn't believe that this had happened, and that this friend was like yelling at me and kind of like hurling these insults at me. And I remember I was sitting, and this is where we get to a more mature audience. So the whole way home, we're driving, home, and we're talking this over because I had to leave after this because I was at a point where I just had to leave. I had to remove myself from the situation because it was completely awful. And I remember on the drive home, we were like sitting there, like, couldn't believe, like, where was this coming from? Where is this, anger and hostility? Where did this come from? Like, where is he getting these ideas? Like, what happened? And so I'm the whole way home, could not believe that I had gotten yelled at by, this person who I considered one of my best friends. So it's just like, tears because you're just like, you can't believe what's going on. And so even when we get home and my husband's like, trying to console me and trying to be like, it's going to be okay. While I'm trying to talk to him, I am sitting on the ground in front of our closet. So imagine, if you will, that our closet is right here, and I decided that I am going to sit right here up against the wall, kind of, sitting with my legs crossed, trying to relax, trying to just kind of decompress and, talk everything out with my husband and trying to figure out like what went wrong. In the meantime, my husband's trying to console me and he's getting undressed because he's going to take a shower. As you guys can see, I wear glasses. Now, I don't wear glasses because, like, I need for seeing things up close. I need glasses because I am nearsighted and I can't see things from far away. Well, my husband's getting undressed, still talking to me. I am crying. My glasses are getting fogged up because I am crying and I am a hot mess. So I proceed to take off my glasses and I'm trying to wipe away my mascara because I am a hot, hot mess. When I look up after taking off my glasses and wiping some of the mascara off my face, I see my husband's scrotum mere just a hair away from my nostrils. In his head, he was trying to cheer me up. So he, in that moment, thought that, what would make her laugh? I know. What if she sees my butt and I moon her and then we'll all get a good laugh and then maybe she'll feel better? That did not happen. What did happen was I look up and I proceed to see balls, mere hairs away from my nose. It startles me. And in that moment, because I am so startled, I fly backwards and I hit the door frame so loud that it woke up other members in my house. My daughter came running down the hallway because she heard the thud. My husband, naked now, trying to bend down to see that I don't have a concussion, has to make a mad dash into the bathroom so he doesn't traumatize our kid. Did the tears stop that night? No. But I had different tears after that. It went from tears of rage to genuine tears of pain. I swear to God, I almost gave myself a concussion, all because my husband wanted to make me laugh. What is the purpose of these stories, you may ask? Well, it relates back to why I feel the need to have to defend my profession. I notice that these talking points or these misconceptions and perceptions of what an academic is and does in a classroom come from a few notable sources that I have been noticing floating around on, social media platforms. And I think that it's kind of time that somebody kind of take them to task and kind of examine their arguments against the humanities or against what we're doing in these academic institutions. And so that's kind of what I want to do. I kind of want to take a few minutes to go over there and demonstrate to you guys what it is exactly that I do. And, I am not saying don't criticize what's going on in these institutions or the ideas that are emerging. We're all about that. That is totally fine. But when you have these misconceptions and preconceived notions about, the indoctrination that is happening in these institutions and how these instructors are turning out, these activists that, they then send out into society as social justice warrior, really does highlight how little you know about what goes on in these academic institutions. And it usually comes from a place of, people who have very limited experience with what, goes on in these academic institutions. And so hopefully, through these videos, I, will be able to dispel some of these, myths and misconceptions, such as
this is coming from Dagan, this wokeness that is showing up everywhere, and this Marxist thread raging through our economy.
or
do not send your children to the humanities, right? They're corrupt.
And I'm just getting tired of having to defend myself against ideas, from, so-called scholars like
Nature. They won't learn to write. Well, that's because teaching people to write takes a tremendous amount of effort, and perhaps they're not so much interested in teaching people to formulate their own thoughts precisely and carefully as they are interested in producing cult-like clones to go out and do their activist work, which is precisely what they state on their website.
So hopefully I've, in, this time I've convinced you that, to give me a chance or to just give the ideas a chance. And hopefully, these, videos will help dispel some of these, misconceptions and the misinformation that we're hearing from these very loud sources. And hopefully I can go over there and, demonstrate what it is exactly that we're doing and how we're doing it, why it's important, and how research is conducted, and, et cetera, and so forth. And just the other random ramblings that go on inside my head. And, maybe I'll pepper those in with some more story times, because Lord knows I got a fucking ton. So hopefully you'll learn a little bit of something, and hopefully you'll go on this journey with me. So just remember, like, share, subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.